Hey, so welcome back. It's another moment of truth with your boy right here. I believe this is episode 9, almost at 3, almost at 8, 9. um, this one I'm going to be talking about combating codependency and finding freedom. Fun fact for you. So back in 2017, I was in a relationship with a woman, and the relationship was very interesting to say the least. Um, I've watched this girl go from 0 to 100, lived a lifetime within a few weeks, and it was like all this up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And historically, in my relationships, I would try to be that person to fix and try to, be better, because of, if I'm better, then they'll get better, instead of me just doing it for myself and letting the chips fall where they may. So I was on that path, and I was trying to figure out what the hell to do about the situation. After speaking to my therapist, turns out my therapist says just stay neutral, practice staying neutral, being extreme line, and that's that. Just in the camera a little bit. Here we go. And if I found that it worked. It worked really well. So well, in fact, that I ended up not being in that relationship anymore. Um, what I learned over time about codependency is that, one of the things, 'cause I don't know everything verbatim, but one of the things is that you have a false sense of self, and you don't have a high level of self-esteem. So what I was doing after this relationship ended, I wanted to find a new group of friends, re-solidify myself, and find a hope and build myself from scratch. So I actually joined a group, a 12-step program called Codependence Anonymous. Um, it was interesting, again, to say the least. 12-step programs work for people all the time. Some people it works, some people it doesn't. For me, I went in there and I gathered some information. I was in the program for probably, I want to say, about 2 months or so. And then I decided that it was not necessarily for me, because I was doing work, real work. I would leave the meetings and come home and like go into the late hours of the night studying codependency until my head fell off as best as I could. And I would ask myself the question, am I doing this? Am I exhibiting these behaviors that are not healthy for myself or healthy for anyone else around me? So that's how my path towards freedom started. I started asking the hard questions, right, in the middle of having all this stuff. So I knew I was codependent. I knew I had that going on from my previous engagement and relationship that I was in for about 7 years. And we both were. And there was a lot of things going on. And I remember being in that relationship and my ex having to fix me, having to find something wrong so she can fix it. And then so I'm just trying to help. That's also another side of codependency. You're just trying to help a person, and you're trying to change them to fit the image in which you want them to be in. So once, as a guy, I say no builder bros. Once you're no longer a builder bro, they have their sense of identity, their sense of self is lost. And they're not really able to give you what you need either. So it's best to go ahead and find out who you can be, how you can be on your own. I digress a little bit. So being that I was in that codependent scenario, I naturally went from one to another. And then I just said to myself, I'm purely sick of this shit. So which led me towards trying to find a support group and find new people. So since this is the moment of truth and we're open and candid, that's redundant. Since we're being candid here, um, I ended up meeting someone in the Codependence Anonymous group, And, we turned out to be pretty good friends. And eventually she wanted to be friends with benefits. And I told her, like, we're in this program. I am in no condition to be in a relationship right now with me working on myself, which led to my period of time between the end of 2017 and like most of 2018, going out there and exploring myself, in the dating world and in all types of parts of like my life. So it was a very interesting and educational and sometimes exciting time for me, in which I really did battle with codependency and finding my freedom. I started to lay the groundwork in meaning what I'm saying and saying what I mean. In doing that, I found that codependency can run really deep, and it's a constant fight. Eventually you find your way away from it more and more each day, but it's a long battle. It's a long one. And I told myself, I'm not getting into a relationship until I figure this stuff out. And I don't have to go in there looking to fix anybody, looking to make anyone in my image or how I feel they should be. I want a partner. I want someone I could build with and not someone I can grow with, things like that. And so in doing that, thus began the fight. So I'm currently kicking its ass. That's how it goes. So one of the most important things to me is, again, it goes back to some of the other videos where, having that solitude time, that alone time, and asking yourself the difficult questions. Why am I doing this? Where's the source of this? One of the ways I combated codependency was write down all the belief systems of those who I grew up around, my parents, siblings, friends, and all that. I wrote all those things down and I asked, do I believe this? Does this serve me? So that's one of the tactics I use. So I wrote a list of all these other belief systems and I asked myself the questions, do I believe this? And does it serve me? Does it serve me now? And if it's no, I'm like, all right, we need to move this ideal, put it to the side and put in something new. So that was in addition to having alone time. All right. As you see, alone time is very important. Time for you to, whether you're going to nature for a hike, whether you're doing a bike ride, doing a workout or something, but you need your own personal space. You know what I mean? Now, just as a sidebar, COVID made it hard for that to happen because we're in a living space with each other, with another person at times. Or you were on the other side of the spectrum, but you were isolated from people the entire time. However, it is a tactic that pairs well if you're doing alone time and you're writing this list down, you're getting these things together and you're making good use of that time. Another thing is with codependency and how to battle it is if you're in a dating world or whatever, take things slower. There's this primal instinct to want to pair with someone and procreate. Understand that. Understand that it's your animalistic instinct to want to do that. You see someone that's attractive and you're like, oh, I want to get to know that person. Basically, you're saying you want to get to know that person is a part of your nature saying, I want to, whatever. But we are intelligent beings. We can use the neocortex, right? That's the newest part of our brain, right? And as we're adults, and we can start to make more executive decisions to like, okay, yeah, I want to get to know this person for real. I don't want to get to know their insides. I want to get to know them as a whole. Well, maybe their spirit and their energy, stuff like that inside, but you know what I'm saying. So you want to actually get to know a person. Take the time. Don't rush that. It's really important. And I know there might be some people watching this, they may feel like they're under pressure because of time. Take your time with it. When I went through my period, I gave myself a solid, what's the word I'm looking for? Gave myself a solid period of time where I was going, okay, I'm doing this, bam, that's that. And in that time period, I got a chance to learn things, and I got a chance to learn about who I'm with today, obviously. And it wasn't like I went out and just did date stuff like that, because sometimes with dating, it's implied that something's going to lead somewhere, and it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. It's a trial period for both people. And of course, when you're out there on a date, you're putting your best foot forward. You're wearing your makeup, you getting your hair cut and stuff like that. At one point, I went out on a date during this time period, and I didn't give a rat's ass. I had a blast. So did this other person, but I learned in that time period that this person was not someone I wanted to really deal with. And then that was around that time, that was when I learned that, okay, I'm really doing a pretty decent job with dealing with codependency and attachment issues and stuff like that, because I wasn't afraid to be alone, and I'm not afraid to get my feelings hurt. One of the things I actually do still struggle with sometimes is confrontation. And one of the things with codependency is you don't want like to be hurt, or you don't want to hurt the other person. You just want to help. But sometimes the confrontational and the hard conversations are the things that are going to help you build a solid relationship. So if you're being true to yourself, you're combating codependency. If you're expressing your emotional state and you're not losing your shit because a person may disagree with you, then you're combating codependency. So just to wrap it up, I can go on forever with this. Yeah, so spend time alone again, write out a list of belief systems, ask if you believe those things for real, if there are your belief systems and you truly actually adopt those. And if they're not, put them to the side, get rid of them, and put the things in that you do believe. Okay. If you're out there in the dating world, take your time with it. Learn about the person in full. And it might be like, oh man, I got to take all this time to do that. It's worth the time. It's worth the time, because you go ahead, you jump from one thing to the other thing to the other thing, and then you find at some point that there's things that you can't deal with, then you're going to want out. I'm fully aware of what I chose, and it's a great feeling. I know people out there that know the same thing too. So kudos to you. And the final thing I have to say about that is do research, look it up, continue to learn about these things. And then the freedom part, because I said combating codependency and finding freedom is the topic. The freedom comes in knowing that you have a choice. I read this book a while back called Love is a Choice, and it is. It doesn't have to be like the things that you saw in the movies. I just fell in love. I couldn't help myself. I just had to do. No, screw that. You have control, you have power, you have dominion over yourself, and therefore you can choose to love who you want to love. You can choose how you do that. And it's important to know that you have that choice. Just like I had a choice to wear a Pikachu costume for Halloween, which was wonderful. I had the choice to love my wife unconditionally and accept her as she is. There you go. And there are times where we have conversations and, I offer my, not going to say expert advice, I offer my opinion, my help. She takes it or she doesn't. And I'll say, and I'm going to leave it with this, I promise. I'll say sometimes that I do get a little frustrated when she doesn't take my my advice, but that's something that I have to deal with. It's not for her to deal with. She doesn't have to listen to me, even though it's like, okay, I'm just trying to help, and that's the thing. We want to kind of help each other out We want to kind of inspire each other, motivate each other, push each other a bit. And, that's that. But in the arena of certain things, there's parts where I don't offer my expert opinion. I put the quotation on it. I roll with it because she knows what she's doing. She has an extensive toolbox, and I'm like, look, use your toolbox. You got a lot of things that I don't have. Use those things, because in essence, you have the power to do whatever you want to do. So that's all I got for you on this one. When you're dealing with this, combating that codependency, and you find your freedom, put the hands up, bob and weave, do what you got to do. All right. And it's a lifelong process. We don't get this like that. It doesn't come like this. No, it's a practice. Just like yoga is a practice, just like fitness is a constant thing. It's a practice. Do that. Get that practice in. All right. And I will see you next time. Be truthful.